The 1970s were an extra decade. Rock and roll was louder, bigger, and bolder than ever before. Bands weren't just musicians, they were brands, filling arenas, selling millions of records, and shaping culture. But some of the bands of the 70s that you once thought were untouchable legends might not actually deserve the crown. But let's be real, not every band deserved the mountains of praise they received. Stay tuned, because today we're diving into the most overrated bands of the 70s. Let's begin the countdown. Kiss. Kiss. The painted faces, the fire-breathing, the blood-spitting, the pyrotechnics. They were less of a band and more of a rock and roll circus. Now, don't get me wrong. Songs like Rock and Roll All Night and Detroit Rock City are undeniably fun. But let's be honest, was Kiss more about the music or the merchandise? You couldn't escape them in the 70s. Lunchboxes, comic books, action figures. Kiss was everywhere. But musically, many critics said their riffs were simplistic and their lyrics downright cheesy. Still, the spectacle worked. The louder the fireworks, the more records they sold. So, were they geniuses of self-promotion or just overhyped glam rockers? 9. The Eagles.
Love will keep us alive.
Okay, I know I just hit a nerve. The Eagles are sacred to some. Hotel California is practically an American anthem.
Welcome to the Hotel California.
But here's the thing. Their polished, laid-back California sound made them kings of FM radio, not necessarily groundbreaking innovators. Take songs like Take It Easy or Peaceful Easy Feeling. Pleasant? Absolutely. But revolutionary? Not really. They weren't pushing boundaries, they were perfecting a formula. And boy, did that formula sell. They packed stadiums, sold millions of records, and dominated the charts. But for all their success, many critics argued their music was more commercial wallpaper than artistry. And yet, here we are, still humming Hotel California in the car decades later. 8. Boston.
I feel like I'm the man you believe I am.
Few debut albums made a splash like Boston's 1976 self-titled release. Songs like More Than a Feeling and Peace of Mind blasted out of every Camaro and high school parking lot across America. But let's be real. Boston's sound was so polished, so overproduced, that many felt it lacked the grit and soul of true rock. It was arena rock perfected in a lab. And while Tom Scholz was a genius in the studio, the band's later albums basically recycled the same formula. They were massive, yes, but innovative? Not so much. Boston gave us big soaring choruses and those layered guitar harmonies. But critics couldn't help but ask, was it too perfect for its own good? Styx. Styx walked a fine line between prog rock ambition and pop rock accessibility, and sometimes they leaned a little too far into the cheesy side. Songs like Come Sail Away and Lady became FM staples, but they were also dripping with melodrama. By the time they hit with Mr. Roboto in the early 80s, the backlash had already started. Many fans saw them as a guilty pleasure rather than a serious band. Sure, they sold tons of records. Sure, they filled arenas. But was Styx truly a groundbreaking 70s act, or just a band that knew how to package arena-ready hooks? 6th, Foreigner.
You tell me you're leaving, you tell me goodbye.
When Foreigner hit the scene in the late 70s with songs like Feels Like the First Time and Cold as Ice, they became instant radio darlings.
You're as cold as ice.
They had the hooks, they had the power ballads, and they had that polished transatlantic sound. But let's be honest, Foreigner wasn't exactly rewriting the rock and roll playbook. They borrowed from hard rock, mixed in some pop, and packaged it neatly for mass consumption. Their songs were tailor-made for radio rotation, catchy, clean, and commercial. And while fans ate it up, critics often dismissed them as formula rock. Overrated depends on who you ask, but you can't deny you still find yourself singing along when Hot Blooded comes on. 5. The Doobie Brothers. Now don't come for me, because the Doobie Brothers were undeniably talented musicians. But were they a little overrated? Absolutely.
The wise man has the power.
Songs like Listen to the Music and China Grove made them staples of 70s radio. Then came the Michael McDonald era, bringing hits like What a Fool Believes. Suddenly they shifted from boogie rock to yacht rock. The Doobies were everywhere, and yet many critics argued they lacked a distinct identity. Were they rock? Were they soul? Were they pop? It depended on the year. They sold millions, but for a band so massive, their lasting cultural impact feels surprisingly light. Fourth journey. Before Don't Stop Believin' became the most downloaded song of the 21st century, Journey was carving their path in the late 70s. Tracks like Wheel in the Sky and Lovin', Touchin', Squeezin' made them household names. But let's be real, Journey was tailor-made for arena sing-alongs. Their songs were emotional, soaring, and dramatic, but critics often slam them as predictable and sugary. The thing is, Journey's strength was also their weakness. They mastered the art of the power ballad, but did they really innovate? Or were they simply giving the audience exactly what it wanted every single time? 3. Kansas. Kansas gave us one of the most enduring rock ballads of all time, Dust in the Wind. And yes, Carry On Wayward Son is practically stitched into the fabric of classic rock radio. But beyond those hits, their albums were often bloated with prog rock experiments that didn't always land. They had ambition, no doubt, but execution? That's debatable. Critics often argued Kansas wanted to be America's answer to Yes or Genesis, but lacked the consistency and artistry to truly get there. They were big, they were popular, but were they overrated? Many would say yes. Number 2, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, ELP. Prog rock excess at its finest, or worst, depending on your view. Emerson, Lake and Palmer were technically brilliant musicians. Nobody denies that, but brilliance doesn't always equal listenability. Their albums were filled with 20-minute epics, classical reinterpretations, and over-the-top stage theatrics. Lucky Man was their radio hit, but much of their work alienated casual listeners. By the late 70s, even fans started to feel the bloat. Their ambition often outweighed their execution, and critics were ruthless. They sold millions. Yes, but ELP became the poster child for why punk rock came crashing in to reset the table. Number 1, Led Zeppelin. All right, deep breath, because this one's going to cause a riot. Led Zeppelin, the band many call the greatest of all time, also has a strong case for being overrated. Now, before you start typing angry comments, hear me out. Zeppelin was undoubtedly hugely influential. Songs like Stairway to Heaven, Whole Lotta Love, and Kashmir are untouchable classics. But here's the flip side. Much of their material wasn't as original as it seemed. Many of their songs borrowed, some say stole, from old blues artists. Tracks like Dazed and Confused and Bring It On Home sparked lawsuits and decades of debate. And while their mystique, musicianship, and swagger were undeniable, some argue the hype surrounding Zeppelin often overshadows the fact that much of their catalog is bloated, self-indulgent, and, let's face it, hit or miss. Still, overrated doesn't mean bad. It just means maybe they weren't the flawless gods of rock we made them out to be. So there you have it, the most overrated bands of the 1970s. And let's be clear, overrated doesn't mean these bands weren't talented or didn't give us timeless songs. It just means the hype machine was sometimes louder than the music itself. But now I want to hear from you. Do you agree with this list? Did I just trash your favorite band? Or maybe I left someone off who definitely deserves the overrated crown? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. If you enjoyed this deep dive into rock and roll's most overrated bands, hit that like button, subscribe for more music history, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next countdown. Because trust me, we've only just scratched the surface of the legends, the myths, and yes, the overrated icons of classic rock.